You know, in the digital world, every big move, every major attack, it doesn't start with a bang. It starts with a whisper. It starts with intelligence gathering, the art of digital reconnaissance. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on a really fundamental technique that both hackers and security pros use every single day: port scanning. Let's dig into how they probe for weaknesses, one digital door at a time.
So let's start with the big question. How does a hacker actually find a way in? Well, it's almost never a digital battering ram. The first step is way quieter, way more subtle. It's pure recon. Think of it like someone casing a building, walking the perimeter, checking every single door, every window, and just listening. Listening for the one that's unlocked.
And in our digital world, those doors, they have a name. They're called ports. Just imagine any computer connected to the internet, your server, your laptop, as a massive building with literally thousands of these doors. Each port is a numbered entryway for a very specific purpose. Port 80 is for websites, port 25 for email, and so on. The whole game really is just about figuring out which of those doors are open.
And that right there is the mission. The goal of port scanning couldn't be simpler. You send a little message to each one of these doors, one by one, and you just wait to see what kind of response you get back. Is it open for business? Is it slammed shut? Or is there something else going on entirely?
See, it's not just a simple yes or no answer. A port can be in one of three states. Open is pretty obvious. It's listening and ready to talk. Closed means, yep, the door's there, but nobody's home. But filtered? Now that's the really interesting one. That usually means there's a firewall in the way, kind of like a security card standing in front of the door. You can't even tell if the door behind them is locked or unlocked, which makes it a really frustrating mystery.
Okay, so to really get how scanners find these open doors, we first have to understand the polite way computers are supposed to talk to each other. It's a standard process, a protocol called the TCP three-way handshake. Think of it as the official rulebook for starting a proper digital conversation. And honestly, it works almost exactly like a real-life introduction. Your computer kicks things off by sending what's called a SYN packet. That's basically the knock-knock. If the port on the other end is open, the server replies with a SYN/ACK packet, which is its way of saying, I hear you, who's there? To finish, your computer sends one last ACK packet, saying, it's me, and boom, the connection is made. A complete, polite conversation from start to finish. But what happens if that door is closed? Well, the server doesn't just ghost you. It sends back a very clear, very abrupt message, an RST/ACK packet. This is the digital equivalent of a door slamming shut right in your face. Now, for a scanner, that's still super valuable information. It's a definitive no.
All right, so knowing how that normal, polite conversation is supposed to work, scanners can now either play by the rules or they can bend them. And this brings us to the main event, the huge difference between a loud scan that everyone can hear coming and a stealth scan that's designed to fly completely under the radar. So you've got two main approaches here. First up is the connect scan, which is the loud method. It politely goes through and completes the entire three-way handshake we just talked about. The problem? Making a full connection is almost always logged by the system, leaving a big, obvious digital fingerprint. The alternative is the SYN scan, the stealth method. It sends that first knock-knock, it hears the who's there response, and then it just hangs up. It never, ever completes the handshake.
And here's why that is so clever. By never actually completing that handshake, a full TCP connection is never officially established, and that means it often won't get logged as a completed transaction on the server. It's basically the digital version of knocking on a door, seeing someone peek through the curtains to see who it is, and then sprinting away before they can open it and get a good look at your face.
But what happens when the target is a little more sophisticated? What if there's a firewall actively trying to block these simple scans? Well, for that, attackers and security testers have a whole other toolbox of more advanced, more specialized scans, designed specifically for these tricky situations. Now, these advanced scans, they get really creative. Instead of a polite knock, they basically throw something totally weird at the door, like a packet with no information in it at all. That's a NULL scan. Or one with a bizarre combination of settings all lit up, which they call an XMAS scan. The core trick for a lot of these is the same. They're designed so that a closed port is the one that will actually respond and send that go-away message. So if they get total silence back, they can guess the port is probably open or at least filtered.
But, and this is a big but, there's a critical, real-world wrinkle. These clever little tricks only work if the target system follows the official rules perfectly. And, well, a lot of them don't.
Windows systems, for example, are notorious for just ignoring these strange packets entirely. This makes these scans pretty unreliable against them. You might get silence back, even from a closed port, which could lead you to a totally wrong conclusion.
Okay, so let's set up the ultimate challenge. There's a firewall, and it is doing its job really well. It sees our initial knock-knock SYN packet, and it just drops it. Poof, gone. It never even passes it along to the port. The result for us? Complete silence. We have no idea if the port is open, closed, or if it even exists. We are, for all intents and purposes, completely blind.
So how do you get information when you're blind? You use an even crazier trick, the ACK scan. Instead of sending the first step of the handshake, it sends the last step, that ACK packet, completely out of the blue. The hope is that a simple firewall might be fooled. It sees this packet and thinks, oh, this must be part of a conversation I already approved, and it just lets it pass right on through.
Now here's the twist. The ACK scan doesn't actually tell you if the port is open or closed. Nope, it tells you something else entirely, whether the port is unfiltered. In other words, did your probe actually get past the firewall? If you get any kind of response back from the target, you know the firewall let your packet through. You haven't seen inside the room yet, but you've just confirmed there's a hole in the security wall that leads to it.
So why does all this technical cat and mouse stuff matter? Well, because this reconnaissance phase, this is the first chapter of almost every single cyber attack story. Understanding the attacker's toolbox is really the only way you can ever hope to build a defense that actually works.
All right, so let's recap the mission. Port scanning is that foundational first step of digital recon. We saw how the methods escalate, from loud and obvious scans to stealthy ones that try to leave no trace. And when firewalls get in the way, attackers use even more advanced, specialized probes just to map out the defenses. This constant back and forth, this evolution of scanning and detection, it's the core of modern cybersecurity. It's a fundamental chess game that's being played every second of every day on the internet. So we'll leave you with this one thought. Every single device you have connected to the internet, your phone, your computer, your smart TV, is constantly listening for these knocks. Now that you understand the language of that conversation, it's probably worth asking yourself, what are your digital doors saying to anyone who decides to listen in?